Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. I'm Josh Roller, and joining me from the other side of a Zoom call is Rob
Discord.
Peeters. It actually is Skype.
It's Discord and Skype.
It is, you're right, yes. But we'll Zoom call because that's what all these calls are now. They're Zoom calls. Thank you, COVID-19.
Oh no, is it falling into the common use, and is Zoom going to no longer be a trademark?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're creeping into that Coca-Cola borderline territory where they're fighting off. You got to call Pepsi, not just a Coke.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we are social distancing too. And we're taking it to the extreme. We're not 6 feet apart. We're 600 miles apart. Because he is in Indianapolis and I'm in Charlotte. It is the 5th episode of 2021. And someone in a car numbered 5 got a little redemption in Las Vegas on Sunday. In fact, all 3 winners redeemed themselves in a little bit of a way, some form or fashion at Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend. We'll chat about them, the news from Nashville and Bristol, our thoughts on the different winners for potentially at Phoenix, and even if Las Vegas is a prospective season finale track. So, Rob, I say with that, let's go ahead and get started. Rob's Racing Report.
Hey, everybody, we are ready. We are ready for Rob's Racing Report. It is time for Rob's Racing Report, and we're going to start, like usual, with Formula One. We're going to jump right into the news today, because we got a lot of news we got to talk about. So let's go ahead and get jumping into it. The Portuguese Grand Prix is officially confirmed by Formula One, and CEO Stefano Domenicali, the promoter of the race at Portimao, is working on plans to potentially host fans. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix, however, will not host fans, as organizers can't guarantee that the race could safely host fans in the crowded Baku City circuit. So that race will run behind closed doors, unfortunately. But as long as Baku's back, because we've seen some crazy races there in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. That track is just nuts. It's crazy. It looks crazy. This backdrop is crazy.
Talk about a track that you didn't think would work. I didn't think it would work, and it has produced some of the best racing, the most exciting moments each season has been on the schedule.
It's fast, it's tricky, it's treacherous, and it's,
treacherous under caution.
It's a street circuit with elevation too, which is kind of hard to find, and that's kind of nice to see.
Outside of Monaco, it's difficult. It's difficult, man.
Let's see here. Macau has some pretty big. I don't know if you ever watched the Macau Grand Prix.
Yeah, you're right. It does have.
But Macau has some pretty big bankings.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So, but anyway, it's pretty cool about those things. But sad that those in Azerbaijan won't be able to watch the race in person, unfortunately. But hey, COVID. At least they get a race, because they didn't get a race last year. So
right.
Let's see here. So next part is hey, Porsche and parent company Volkswagen are considering a move to Formula One, but according to Porsche Motorsport Vice President Fritz Enzinger, he told BBC Sport, quote, "It would be of great interest if aspects of sustainability, for instance, the implementation of e-fuels, play a role in this. Should these aspects be confirmed, we will evaluate them in detail within the VW group and discuss further steps." I guess that's just saying, hey, if it's greener, we'll go ahead and join the sport.
Yeah.
You're already in Formula E.
I think you already got to. I don't know. They're definitely people are looking at hybrid. They want some sort of hybrid technology in these engines now.
Well, yeah,
it's not just.
It's already there. Formula One already runs hybrid engines.
I know, and that's the kind of thing that kind of confuses me on is like. So you want Formula One to be completely electric? I don't see that happening.
Okay, but the fully electric Formula Series exists, and you're in it.
Yes, I know.
You're literally in it.
I just go to F1. Just go to F1 already, please.
I guess. Okay.
We need a 21st and 22nd car out there.
Well, yeah. I miss Manor. Anyway, moving on to IndyCar now. A recent decree by Toronto Mayor John Tory voided all major event permits through July 1st, which endangers the IndyCar Toronto street race scheduled to take place July 9th through 11th later this season. Green Savory Race Promotions is monitoring the situation closely per racer. It is believed that special permissions will need to be granted in order for the construction of the course to begin approximately 3 to 4 months prior to the race weekend. Weeks. Okay, that's a way better time. Sorry, I misread that. Approximately 3 to 4 weeks prior to the race weekend. A large problem also lies in the fact that the IndyCar paddock would need to quarantine in Canada for 14 days upon arrival. IndyCar races at Mid-Ohio the week prior to Toronto. So this could pose some major logistic problems in traveling to Toronto.
Yep. Let's hope
there's
going to
be some issues traveling in and out of the country this year, that's for sure.
Yeah. I won't lie, I was kind of surprised to see Toronto on the calendar still right now.
Yeah.
Just because of COVID. Don't they also promote Portland and maybe Mid-Ohio too?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I have no idea.
I feel like they promote both those races. I could be mistaken, but this could be a case of where, okay, well, maybe we'll turn around and just pull back-to-back weekends in Mid-Ohio so they can have all their races. I don't know.
Or an option, meet in the middle, go to Michigan. What?
I like that. I'm down.
I know this is I'm being flippant. I'm being crazy.
I think it's
what I would like to see.
I think it's the only NASCAR track that plays the Canadian and United States national anthems.
Yeah, I believe it is. And yes, we've both been to Michigan. There's a Canadian flag there, isn't there?
There is a Canadian flag.
I thought
so. It was in the past when I was there. I'm pretty sure it's still there.
I know. I haven't been there since 2007, so it could have changed since then. But I believe there's a Canadian flag at Michigan Speedway.
Yeah,
and I love Michigan Speedway. It produces some of the best IndyCar races on the planet. It has for years. I mean, I've never seen a dull race at Michigan. I don't think that one exists. Even in NASCAR, I think people give a lot of crap to Michigan about having some dull races, but there's been a lot of memorable races at Michigan in the past that I can remember very fondly. Of course, never forget that 2009 race where Jimmy Johnson was leading, then he ran out of gas. Greg Biffle took the lead, then he ran out of gas. And then Mark Martin took the lead, and he didn't run out of gas. And that all happened in the last lap. It was crazy. And Michigan has been some great fuel mileage races.
Yes.
It has had some really nail-biting fuel mileage races, man. Not a problem. Man, I don't know. I like Michigan. Moving on here to the second and final IndyCar news of the week. This just broke today on Monday when we're recording this. Money Lion has signed on to sponsor Simona De Silvestro's Indianapolis 500 attempt with Peretta Autosport this May. So good to see that team finally get a sponsor. But Penske. It is a Penske sponsor, which helps probably. That probably helped. The Penske relationship probably helped that sponsorship deal come together. But it's good to see that team get a little bit more cash injection for the race. Hopefully that'll be able to, who knows what that'll be able to afford. I don't know what they're paying for, what they have bought, what they haven't bought. I don't know if they got the chassis yet, got the engine yet. I assume it'll be a Chevrolet engine. I think that's right. So who knows?
Non-Penske car or Penske car not being Chevrolet.
We probably announced it was a Chevrolet engine, and I've just forgotten. I don't know. I forget things. I sleep a lot. I don't know if you guys know this, but I sleep a lot.
I sleep every day.
I'm like a cat. I'm like a cat sometimes. I'm like I'll just fall asleep at 10 o'clock, wake up at like 12, and just be like, oh hey, I'm good. I don't think I'm gonna fall asleep until 5 now. I just sleep a lot. So, and then I sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep. All right, I'm not gonna talk about my own personal problems. NASCAR news. It's time for NASCAR news. Dale Earnhardt Jr., fan favorite Dale Earnhardt Jr. will pace the Xfinity Series field during the NASCAR Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway this coming May in Chevrolet Nova, that he and others have restored. The car, raced by his father, is a number 8 GM Goodwrench machine. I believe is that from a car he ran in the Busch Series?
Yes, that's a car. That's the Busch car he ran. That if you followed Dale Jr. for it feels like it feels like over a year. I feel like it dates back to 2019. I can't remember when he actually bought the car, but he bought the car and he went through a variety of different ways to confirm, yes, it was a car that his dad did race, and they have spent a long time at Junior Motorsports restoring it in the fab shop, and it looked good. If you didn't see the posts on Instagram and Twitter or the videos, it just sounds beautiful. It's really nice.
Well, I'll be excited for that. I'm excited. I like Throwback Weekend being in May. I'm kind of at first I was a little bit disappointed, but now I'm kind of getting behind because I like spring and I like
It's a great historical month for racing, and why not?
It really is. And you know what else I really always liked? I liked when I was a kid. You always had this stretch of races in May where I don't think it's going to be the same way this year, but you had a stretch of races that were all like on Saturday night. And it was all like in May, and it was really, really nice. It was really nice because then on Sunday you could just turn your attention to like Indianapolis, and not worry, because usually there was something happening on Indianapolis that weekend, like bump day, pole day, what have you. And on Sunday, you could just turn your attention over there. The NASCAR race has already happened, so you just dedicate your full entire Sunday to watching pole day or bump day. I think it's usually bump day, probably, or practice even, or go to practice if you lived in Indy. Just great times to be alive. So I'm looking forward to. Is that going to be like a day to night race again? I assume 500 miles.
Would probably assume it. I mean, it's going to be a 3:00 start time, so yeah.
Oh, at 3:00. Okay, I was kind of hoping for like it'd be really. That's one of those situations where it's like I wouldn't hate like a 5 p.m. start time, on Saturday evening, Saturday night, 5 p.m. start time, race into the twilight, I don't know. That's one of those situations.
It is a Darlington will be a 3:30 start time, and it is on Mother's Day Sunday, so
it's on Sunday. That's
it's a 400-mile race, so it will be, it'll be over around 7:00. So it's still going to be the sun's going down, but it's going to still be out.
Okay, well, I just miss I like Darlington. I always like Darlington, but there was something to me personally, and maybe this is just because I didn't grow up with the Darlington race being. I mean, I did watch Darlington races, but I didn't start really getting into them until they went to the night race. And those night races and May nights always gave me a very special feeling, and I like that. But hey, who knows? That'll be kind of cool. So, next piece of NASCAR news here: Our Motorsports have acquired the owner's point from Rheaume Brothers Racing in the Xfinity Series and have now essentially 2 guaranteed starting positions going forward this season. This is exemplified by the fact that Tyler Reddick has been running the number 23 instead of the 03 that he attempted to qualify at Daytona. That's the big news there. And then, of course, let's not bury the biggest news of the week. Come on, this broke and everybody lost their minds. I lost my mind. You kidding me?
I was like,
I mean, it's awesome. It's fantastic. The Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Bristol Motor Speedway with Speedway Motorsports have entered into a letter of intent to renovate historic Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway for the potential return of NASCAR events at the legendary track. It is still subject to approval by the Board of Fair Commissioners and Metropolitan Council, but if passed, Bristol would have a long-term contract to lease, manage, and operate Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, as well as assume financial responsibility for track renovations and ongoing maintenance. So this is pretty huge news that we're looking at here, Josh, is we could be having and potentially seeing 2 conjoined NASCAR races in Nashville in the foreseeable future. And I did not expect this to happen, but given the fact that Bristol is so okay about is so gung-ho about this, it seems kind of crazy that they would, take a rival track, I guess, and update it, and it could potentially nobody's really saying it's going to replace a Bristol race or anything, but one could worry that it could sever the market or something. I don't know, but it just seems very bold and very interesting to see this, and that leads me to something a question that I posed on Twitter, and I was just spitballing this, but this push to go back to Nashville Fairgrounds, it really gets me thinking about what the possibilities could be if we made if somebody out there made a push for a track like Wilkesboro. And I know everybody talks about wanting to go back to Wilkesboro, but this is and for years I always said, it's probably never going to happen. It's as likely as Cleveland getting an IndyCar race again. It's as likely as pigs flying tomorrow. It's not going to happen. And I would have been the person who would be all for saying that. I would have said that multiple times, that this just wouldn't happen. But seeing what's happened here, the developments with Nashville Speedway, and also I saw a Slapshoes video about North Wilkesboro, and so this kind of inspired it as well. But it very much appears that if you could find the right amount of investors, this would be something that NASCAR would, this new NASCAR, this Ben Kennedy, Steve Phelps, Jim France Jr. led NASCAR could legitimately be looking into, saying, okay, yeah, if you can buy the Speedway from Bruton Smith, who has said he will sell it to the high, if for his asking price, but I believe that you could very well negotiate it much lower in exchange for something. I'm not sure. I understand it's in a very bad state of disrepair, but if you can save any money on purchasing, well, not a bad state, but the press box has collapsed.
Well, not to interrupt you, I think the biggest thing, obviously, I mean, North Wilkesboro needed some attention when it closed. It was one of those tracks that, I mean, if it had stayed open, was probably going to be on the list of, hey, we got to do some updates here. The biggest problem with
it would have ended up like Rockingham eventually down the road, probably, is the sad part.
Exactly. But I think the good news is the track is intact. You probably have to do some sort of track repavement.
You would have to repave. I would be surprised if they didn't repave it.
Yeah, but the biggest problem with North Wilkesboro, and I would love to see it come back, as well as Nashville. They're both two very historic racetracks. The biggest problem, and this is where it's going to take, to me, the biggest investment is, where are you going to put 40,000 people in the utilities to service the track? Because the track is, I've driven past the track. It's out in the middle of nowhere. And if these trees on US 421 were cut down, you'd be like, why is there a weird looking, looks like a racetrack, looks like a soccer stadium or a baseball field right next to here? It doesn't look like it's being used. It needs more attention than just simply, hey, we got to build new grandstands. We got to build a new medical facility. We got to build new garages. It takes more than that. I would love to see it done. Anything, if you have enough money, you can do it. Right? You can do it. And that's what
I said. That's what I was saying. Like, if you can get the right amount of it, like in this case, Nashville has essentially gotten the right investor.
Correct.
Nashville has gotten the correct investor that says, okay, from Bristol, that's basically said, okay, we will front the money to help renovate you and bring you up to Cup racing standards. Now, obviously, that's probably going to be a lot less money than North Wilkesboro would take. Far less money.
Far less.
But the thing is, what I've been saying is, if the right investor, because it's very clear to me that drivers would like to see it. Drivers don't want to see this track fall into the wayside. Drivers would like to see, and most NASCAR drivers would like to see this track saved in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I do truthfully believe that if there is enough push from former drivers, from fans, from sponsors, from investors, something can be made.
I think the push
possible.
And
my example is my literally all of my reasoning from this specifically comes from what's happened with Nashville.
And I think, and I agree, and I think, again, I think it's possible. Nashville, the advantage it has, it never closed. It's also, again, I go back to the U word. The utilities are there. Yeah. The hookups are there if it's not already hooked up. I think the good news is, when I've read articles, Wilkes County is very much on board. Hey, let's get it done.
I believe that if they have any kind of money, they would front it. Taxpayers there would probably love to see NASCAR return just for the sake of the economic impact that it would have. It would probably offset any tax increase eventually. Like, it would be an eventual payoff. But if for the residents there, I feel like as a resident there, I would want to see that to make sure that my community is strengthened by this race And if that means that I pay a little bit more every year, okay, as long as it means that, the store down the street that provides me with, food and water is not going to close, and I'm not going to be SOL. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
I think it's I would love to see it happen myself. I just think there's a lot of eggs in the Nashville basket at the moment, and I think when you look at, I think the biggest, if NASCAR goes into the new TV contract for 2025 and they have an increase in number of races, okay, then I think the chances of North Wilkesboro coming back again, those are so small. I don't even know. They're very minuscule at the moment, but the chances of resurrecting a track like North Wilkesboro and making it financially probable is going to go up, because right now, where are you going to take a date from? Like for Nashville Fairgrounds, if I'm an SMI track, there's not too many of them that have 2 dates. Vegas is locked in through 2031. You're not going to take a date away from Charlotte. Atlanta has 2 dates. I feel like that's negotiable with. I told you this. I mentioned it. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta gets the All-Star race, right? And they have a cup race, a points race, and an All-Star race, because they're going to be throwing a lot of money. They want to throw a lot of money in that with the entertainment complex they want to build.
I would love to see if Atlanta had a points race, but then also hosted the All-Star race. I would actually like that a lot, because the All-Star race should not be in Texas. Texas, at least in its current state. The All-Star race at Texas would have been a hell of a lot cooler maybe 6 years ago, but now it's not cool at all.
Yeah, and I was going with that was like, then okay, now Texas has its one NASCAR weekend, and now you have a date for Nashville. But it's just it's
where would it fit on the schedule? And I understand.
On the schedule. Yeah,
I understand. I was really only just talking about this from a hypothetical standpoint, asking, if, and maybe not even NASCAR, it doesn't have to come back to it. I mean, if you could get the track race ready again so that it could host Cars Tour weekly races, even like K&N East or something. Excuse me, Arkham Menards East. It's been 2 years. Come on, Arkham Menards East.
Xfinity too. I think if you were to put a start,
trucks back would be even also acceptable.
I think that the best route to go is, let's build 20,000 seats, and let's give it a couple weekends a year with a combination of series with the weeklies, but also the ARCA divisions, truck and Xfinity. And then somewhere down the line, maybe there's a spot for it on the schedule, whether it's a rotating date or a permanent one. We can build more seats. I think that's the best route to go.
Yeah, you don't already North Wilkesboro,
5,000 seats.
You would not have to expand it, because NASCAR, let's be honest, pre-pandemic, NASCAR was not selling maybe 30,000 tickets, give or take, on a race weekend. Give or take. It's not a lot. It's not as many was, and I think I saw Wilkesboro could seat like 40,000. So if we're being honest, you don't really have to add any more grandstands. You just have to renovate the ones you got.
No, you'd have to tear down and redo. You'd have to tear down.
Well, you tear down, redo, rent. It falls into renovate. But my point is, you don't have to add any. You don't have to do anything extra with that. And even then, the track being small is not going to affect it, because if you pack 40,000 people in there and they all want to come to the race at North Wilkesboro, which I guarantee you could probably get a lot of people doing. But like I said, if it's a truck race, great. I don't know. We've talked for this. How long have we talked about this?
Long time.
10 minutes. Jeez. Let me go. I'm going to move on, because we got to talk about the weird dirt race that's still happening at Bristol. A familiar face to dirt car fans will be behind the wheel of a Cup Series car at Bristol for the inaugural race on dirt. Shane Golobic will pilot the number 78 Live Fast Motorsports Ford for the Food City Dirt Race at Bristol on March 28th. I'm not calling it the Food City Dirt Race. I'm going to call it the Food City 250 on dirt, because I think that sounds cooler. But that's just me. Golobic is typically in the number 17W NOS Energy Drink sponsored machine in winged and non-winged dirt races. We got an entry in the Bristol Dirt Race in the Truck Series. Chase Briscoe will also be racing in the Camping World Truck Series race during the Bristol Dirt Weekend. He will pilot the number 04 for Corey Roper, who's not going to race that weekend. Instead, he's going to put Chase Briscoe in the car, which probably will be good, because Chase Briscoe's been having a rough couple of races the past couple of weekends in the Cup Series.
Eldora too.
Yeah. Let's see here. Sticking with the Bristol Dirt Race, because again, we got to talk about it as much as we can. The format for the weekend has been announced. So a random draw will determine the heat race designation and starting positions for the heat race. The draw will be in order of current owner points. 4 qualifying heat races will be held at 15 laps each, with only green flag laps counted, no overtime, free pass, and wave around procedures will be in effect. So, hey, if you go a lap down, just wreck the second place car. I'm not saying do it, but who knows? Passing points. Now, this is a bit controversial because I don't like this in sprint car racing to begin with. I don't like passing points in sprint car racing to begin with.
Beyond complication.
It's literally just to get big name drivers in the show. If they don't show up with the best stuff, as long as they pass a bunch of people, they'll get into the A main, even though they didn't really race their way in there. And somebody who really did is going to get bumped out of the next main, and it's stupid. Passing points are stupid.
But this is what you get for just not having simply qualifying. Taking the practice laps, hot laps. You know, that's what practice should be for. If you have the
I would argue for hot laps if you had a full if you had like full capacity, because then people to be honest with you, if someone told me, yeah, you can pay like $5-6, get in, see some hot laps for like an hour and a half, and then go home, yeah, I would do it.
But yeah, if you set the field actually the starting lineup by actually speeds, then you couldn't argue, hey, this guy who started 8th,
yeah,
and he was faster than the guy who started 2nd. You started 8th, you were slower than the guy in 2nd. Anyways, continue.
So passing points, to explain it here, drivers will accumulate points in the heat races based on finishing position and passing points. The points total determines the starting position for the feature events. So passing point equals the difference between assigned starting position and finishing position. Go forward, accumulate passing points. Go backwards, or finish where you started, 0 passing points. Tiebreaker is on owner points. The Cup race will feature 250 laps, hence why I call it the Food City 250 on dirt, which is way cooler, in my opinion, as of a name, with stage endings at lap 75 and lap 150. The truck feature race will be 150 laps with stages at 40 and 90. The running order will be frozen at the conclusion of each stage, and non-competitive pit stops will take place for a set time TBD by NASCAR. This will be I had a really bad acid reflux this morning, so please excuse me, it's coming back. This will be the only time fuel and tires will be permitted to be changed outside of a tire failure. There will be no requirement to pit, however, during the stage breaks. The choose rule will not be in effect for the Bristol dirt races.
Don't like this.
Josh, we should, because this is our last news point, we could probably take a little more time to talk about this. Not as much time as we did fantasizing about what would happen if North Wilkesboro came back, because I posed the question and realized I should have saved it for much later. But what are some of your initial thoughts on this?
First off, again, I already touched on it. You shouldn't be having this. Heat races are fine, but it should be done. But you're going to have practice. Take the fastest practice times and set it, and let that be how you determine the order, so 4th fastest lap is going to be the pole sitter for heat race 4. Simple. All right. No choose rule. You're telling me that on a dirt race, you're not going to give people the preferred line, of choice? Come on. You're talking about, we've got this choose rule, which should be in effect at all places except super speedways, which currently super speedways and road courses, they're not permitted. Road courses should absolutely have the choose rule. But yeah, a dirt race, if the top side's coming in and I'm going to be stuck on the low side because Johnny Two Shoes here was slow on pit road and now I'm starting 6th instead of 5th, I'm going to go backwards. That's not fair. I should be able to choose. And if it becomes literally a top line show, so be it.
Whatever. I mean, that's kind of how it was for years prior to the choose rule.
That's exactly, but we have the rule now that replaces it, that fixes this, and now we're going backwards. It just doesn't. Again, the dirt race is. We're going to see how it's going to play.
How are you going to put that? I think the big question is, how are you going to see the choose cone?
You send an official out there and stick a cone.
Yes, you want an official to stand in the middle of pacing cars and have them dodge the official. Yes, well, that sounds like a great idea.
You have to determine by the start finish line. Your start finish line is the choose line. You have to clearly go high or low. All right, I'm going to start in the high lane. I'm going to start in the low lane. I just solved it. All right.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
seriously, if that's the excuse why they're not doing this, come on. I don't.
It could be. It
a load
very
of
well could be
malarkey.
the
Respectively,
excuse.
that's a load of malarkey.
I'm gonna
You're right.
look. I still think the Bristol Dirt Race is still weird to me.
It's weird.
It's weird that there's a truck race and not an Xfinity race this weekend. Kind of that low key bothers me a little bit more than it should. But that's just me. I like watching Xfinity at Bristol, especially the way Xfinity has been the last several years. It just kind of bums me out that we're getting robbed of that. The beautiful Xfinity short track racing that the series was built on. But anyway, so I mean, outside of that, I can't say that I was surprised to see any of this. It all made perfect sense to me, except for the passing points. The passing points seem stupid. You might as well at this point. I don't know. Passing points is just stupid. I hate that. That's the one thing I can't get over. I can't get over. Passing points is stupid. I'm sorry. Let's move on, Josh. Let's go ahead and move on. We're about a half hour and a little over a half hour. So.
Well, that was a lot to unpack, unfortunately. But feature paint scheme time. Rob and I are going to pick a scheme from the 2013 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Rob, your selection this week.
So my selection is going to be another one-off. Gotta go with the one-offs. Time to talk about Elliott Sadler's number 81 Alert Energy Gum Toyota that was driven to a 40th place finish at Kansas in April 2013. Sadler at this time, I don't know if how many people know this, but if you don't know, Sadler at this time had signed to join Joe Gibbs' Nationwide Series team, and despite being retired from full-time Cup competition, attempted 2 races in a 4th JGR car. The second JGR car was the same one, number 81, but it was sponsored by Doublemint and attempted to qualify at Talladega. Rain washed out qualifying, so that car didn't get to start, which is disappointing because we were robbed.
That paint scheme actually.
It was beautiful. I didn't know what the rules were if I could pick DNQs.
You've picked DNQs before.
Oh.
I feel like you have. One of us has. Yes, you can pick you can pick DNQ.
I maybe should have texted you and been like, can we pick DNQs?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
But this one, look, this one is still weird because this one actually started, and this one has a story behind it. Because if I'm not incorrect, I'm pretty sure, I'm going to look this up here. But the sponsor on this car was called Alert Energy Gum, right? And so it was essentially, I guess, produced by Wrigley, which was the sponsor of Doublemint, which Mars company. So that was Kyle Busch, everything. So it was pretty easy. So I guess they're promoting this brand of gum, right? That's caffeinated. So you're chewing on this gum. This is the brand that's being advertised, is gum that keeps you awake.
Energy.
And on the back of the hood, it actually says like 1 stick of our gum is like 1.5 cups of coffee or something like that. And I'm like, oh my, do I really want to be chewing this? So, but then what's crazy is Wrigley had to. This is around this time, I believe. This was crazy. The car had debuted, and I wasn't sure if it was either before or after this car ran. But Wrigley ended up actually. This is from the Wikipedia page on FDA's investigation. Wrigley temporarily halted production and sales of its Alert Energy gum as the FDA investigated the safety of caffeinated food products, especially the possible effects of caffeinated gum on children and adolescents. Keep in mind, there's a lot of kids who watch NASCAR. Let's not forget this. So while we understand that, yes, cars are sponsored by beer and cigarettes a lot of the time, if you're advertising a gum, maybe it should be safe for kids too, because kids are going to chew gum. So this obviously
got government interfering.
Yeah, here it is. This is from May 8th, 2013. This is a CNN article. Wrigley halts production of caffeine gum. So it was a little bit after this car ended up running, because this car ran at the April Spring Kansas race. So this was about, give or take, a little less than a month after this car ran, did this product end up getting pulled from the market? It's crazy. I just it has a fun backstory, and that's why I picked this one over the Doublemint, because this was kind of more fun to talk about than, a failed product is always going to be more fun than talking about gum and moving on from kind of a more or less bland car instead of this. Now, I can't figure out. Now, if you go to J-Ski, do me a favor, you go to J-Ski or you look this car up on your own time, you try and tell me what this orange like racing stripe is on this car. So it's maroon. So as we're talking about this car, I should probably describe it to you. It's a maroon base. So the base color is maroon. The numbers are white. So it's 81 is white, and it says Alert Energy Caffeine Gum. Now on the front of the car, I don't know what it is. Is it supposed to be a sunrise? Is it supposed to be? It's because it's not coffee. I don't know if it's a stick of the gum.
I think it's like.
What I don't know what it is. It's this orange racing stripe, but I can't figure out what it is.
It looks like it's. I would describe it as some sort of energy molecules bursting and energy.
like an explosion, or like I said, like a sun condensed and stretched across the car for some reason.
Yeah. By the way, it's one gum equals half a cup of coffee.
Okay, one gum. Okay, so that's not as bad as I thought it was. I missaw it. I'm glad you looked at that for me. But yeah, that I picked this car number one because I love one-off cars, and I loved back then when Joe Gibbs announced he was going to do a fourth car and it was going to be 81. I don't know why I loved the idea of it being 81. I always did. I liked it back then. I like it more than 19. I wish Martin Truex was in the number 81 instead. I don't know why. And maybe I would have liked the 19 more in an alternate universe where the 81 did get picked. Yeah. But, I digress. I don't care. I'm glad that Ty Gibbs is running it at Road America in the Xfinity Series this year. So if they make a diecast of it, I'm probably going to get it because that would be really cool. So, Josh, that's all I've got to say. I've got to share that. Now you know all about Elliott Sadler's lone cup start for Joe Gibbs Racing. He did make a couple other starts for MWR later in the season after Brian Vickers or had health issues again, I guess. And boy, Brian Vickers is I just remember that he existed. Can we talk about Brian Vickers now after what we know about his wife? Is he like a touchy subject?
You're breaking news to me. I evidently
did not know that his wife was like second in line to Ghislaine Maxwell, the Jeffrey Epstein situation. Did you not know that?
Nope.
You're just now learning this?
Yeah.
You did not know that Brian Vickers' wife was. Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a touchy subject for this podcast. A special
look it up. Look it up. Everybody listening, look it up. I'm not going to stare it with you, but seriously, look this up. I didn't know Josh Newt didn't know this.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to get on moving here. What's going?
Tell us about your feature paint scheme that does not involve Brian Vickers.
No. I'm going with the number 51 Tag Heuer Chevrolet for Phoenix Racing. It was a 2-off paint scheme, sponsored by the Swiss luxury watchmaker. The car was base black with the skirts red right at the bottom, and then had white and green lining separating the black and the red. The number was white. Still had the Phoenix Racing 51. Later, Harry Scott Jr. would take over the team later that season. It was run twice, first by Austin Dillon at Las Vegas, where he started 27th and finished 21st. Then at Sonoma Raceway by Jacques Villeneuve, and he started 22nd, finished 41st with an error on lap 19. Still a good-looking car. I don't know why. I don't have a Tag Heuer watch, but I am infatuated with any racing cars that have its sponsorship, and I can't explain it. I think it goes back to the green, how I will tend to like green race cars, i.e. the Doublemint car I nearly chose for this segment.
You almost chose that? See, this is crazy because I saw that you had done the number 51, and this is what I was almost going to pick Larson's Target car.
That was third in line for me.
Because I look, a white Target NASCAR objectively, in my opinion, looks better than a red one.
I agree. I will agree with that wholeheartedly.
That is why that one's my favorite.
Yes. So if we ever do 2013 Nationwide Series, if we haven't already, I can't remember our Nationwide Series. Larson 32 is an easy pick for that season.
32?
Yeah, he ran to
It
32.
was 32. No, what was the year that he ran the cartwheel sponsorship? I liked that one too. I think that was 2014 then, maybe.
Yeah, that might have been in the 40. I don't know.
Yeah, it was in the 42. It was 2014. I looked it up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, that was that. I'll keep mine short and abbreviated. Just like the cool, like the paint scheme, like the sponsor, plus Austin Dillon and Jock. I mean, that's a great driver lineup for the sponsorship there. All right, so this week's winners. Just to recap, the 3 races in Vegas. The Truck Series was won by Hunter Nemechek. First win for him with KBM in start number 3. I've noted it later in the show, but he did something that hadn't been done by a KBM regular driver since 2018, and that was win a race in the regular season.
Oh.
So Noah Gragson, Kansas, 2018.
Who is the last KBM driver to beat Kyle Busch?
Well, you've had
like in a race, like yeah,
in actually a race.
Yeah. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm wondering.
For
like
a win,
race head to head, because Hunter Nemechek seems like the first one who's really been able to literally outdrive the boss man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't have a stat on that, so I don't know.
I would say that it would be a good guess. That would be a really good guess. It might literally be Noah. Could be. Then AJ Allmendinger wins in the Xfinity Series again at Las Vegas.
How about that?
Oval win number 2 for him.
Yeah, AJ
loved his post race interview. You can just see how much it means to him. And then the Cup Series, Kyle Larson. We'll talk more about that in a second. So top takeaways here. We'll start with the Camping World Truck Series. Marcus Lemonis, we love you. We absolutely love you. He sponsored a number of trucks with bonus incentives. So he sent out a tweet, said, "Hey, let's kind of up the ante in a way." So $15,000 base, guaranteed. If you're unsponsored, I'll pay for sponsorship here. I'll give you $25,000 if you get a top 10. I'll give you $35,000 if you get a top 5. And if you win, I'll give you $50,000. I mean, come on, this is awesome. So there's a number of drivers and teams that went along with this. Sheldon Creed, Jordan Anderson, Norm Benning, Grant Infinger, who was in the number 9 this week because Christian Eckes was in the 98.
Oh, thank you, Cody Rohrbaugh, for making that happen.
Yes, that was a great move by Cody. Rafael Lessard, Jesse Awuji, BJ McLeod, Dawson Cram, Tyler Hill, and Parker Kligerman.
I forgot BJ made a truck start on Friday.
Who did?
I forgot BJ McLeod made a truck start on Friday.
He did. He
doesn't make many of those truck starts, so it's kind of interesting to see him do that.
Yeah, nice to see that. Now, Infinger and Kligerman, they got top 10s. They were the only 2 guys to cash in on the bonuses, but there was a couple car. I mean, Kligerman could have had a top 5. Creed was in an accident. Jordan Anderson was running close to the top 10 at one point. So you had a couple guys who could have got extra bonus, but life happens and racing happens, and that kind of got in the way there. The massive crash by
man.
Let me back up. Did you have anything to say? Because I said, Marcus Lemonis, we love you.
Oh, I love Marcus, man. I mean, he is doing the NASCAR world a saving grace. I wish we had more sponsors like that loved the series as much. Well, we do. I would like. I feel like John Menard sponsors a lot. He doesn't do like what Marcus Lemonis does, but he's kept a lot of racing series up. He's kept a lot of racing teams up afloat. Like Wood Brothers, for example. DEI was kept afloat by him for a while there. Robert Yates, if it wasn't for him, I'm sure Yates would have closed up about a year earlier. And then he's still doing it. He's got behind Brandon Jones. He's basically been the only thing that has saved ARCA for the past several years. He's been the saving grace of ARCA. But he's never done anything like this, and that's what makes it so great to see Lemonis go out there and say, all right, not only do I sponsor the series, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to sponsor a bunch of the trucks too, and make sure that, we don't have a bunch of white trucks out there. We have sponsored, beautiful trucks. Because let me tell you something, not a single car missed. Not a single paint scheme on that track on Friday missed. And especially still loved Daniel Suarez's car on Sunday. It was leading for a little bit during green flag pit stops, and I was like, oh, it looks so nice up there. Oh, I love it. I just love seeing that. Marcus. And so that's a nice thing. If you can get a guy who sponsors everybody and then he doesn't make crap paint jobs, it's not all just it's not just a black base with his face slapped on it or his company's logos on it. Literally someone went all out. Somebody had to hire designers to make that, and that gives jobs to people who love doing that. I've been doing some design work on a couple of cars myself this past week, and man, I've just been frustrated. The other day I had started one really late at night, and then all of a sudden I just kept working on it, and I realized that I had reversed 2 colors, and I have to basically almost start over from scratch. I've layered everything, but I have to go back and fix a whole bunch of layers that make sure those line up now that I previously shouldn't have had to, but I screwed up. And trust me, designing one of these race cars is a heck of a lot harder than it looks. So I have a lot more appreciation for paint schemes than I think, the average NASCAR fan would, because I know what it takes to design them. I know how difficult it can be. And I know that people who are good at it are really good at it. So,
right.
I think a lot of my friends that do work for, NASCAR Heat games, like I've said for many years, the whole reason I buy NASCAR Heat DLC is specifically to support my friends that I know that work on that game as paint scheme designers. So I know, but seeing all those Camping World schemes, not a single one look bad. All of them look good.
Did you have a favorite?
Suarez is my favorite. I mean, there was a lot of really, really good looking trucks. Grant Enfinger's truck was really good looking. I like that one a lot.
Anderson probably my favorite one.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Anderson, yeah, he had a good one. I like Sheldon Creed's too. But Grant Enfinger's was personally my favorite.
Yeah. All right, so Connor Daly's massive hit. That was a hard way to learn a lesson.
Connor Daly doesn't make all these stock truck starts, but man, when he does, he makes a splash in one way or another, doesn't he?
Oh man, I was just glad that he hit that wall a ton, and he kind of said in an interview, the air,
yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I think you and I a lot of time have problems with, and that's one of the things that I think is holding back the Truck Series a lot. Is the Truck Series is a little bit too reliant on aerodynamics than it needs to be. No. The Truck Series should be more about beating and banging, and rough and tumble racing like it used to be. I remember in 2005 they had this whole entire ad campaign specifically about how the trucks are tough and they beat and they bang and it's Rubbin's racing, all that stuff. It's not anything like that anymore. It's just all aero dependency now. And Connor Daly kind of summed it up right there. I think in any other situation, he probably wouldn't have had to deal with that. But because he's racing in modern Truck Series, if you slap the wall, it's gonna probably ruin your night now. Whereas a couple of years ago, I don't think it would have mattered. Most guys wouldn't have cared. I think I can't remember how many. In 2005, Chad Chaffin flipped once. I'm not going to mention the other driver who flipped because we don't talk about him either. Oh, do you not know about him? You know about him. You know about the driver of the number 14 truck in the Truck Series for many years. Okay, you know about him. Yeah, we don't talk about him either. Yeah. But Chad Chaffin flipped. I'm pretty sure he kept going. I'm pretty sure he kept going. That car came back on all fours, and he kept going. He might have had suspension damage, but I think he kept going. Those trucks were tough back in the day, and now I don't know if they're as tough as they used to be.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're as tough as they used to be, but it's just a different series. Like we've said before, it's not the Truck Series of old. It's different, and we both wish it was different. Would go back and be its own little series once again.
Man, if what they're saying is true, I almost mentioned this earlier, but I sort of don't care what happens to Toronto, because if that means the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park gets canceled, you know what the rumors are saying, right?
Yeah, the IRP. I don't want to see Canadian Tire Motorsports get canceled.
Yeah, I don't care if it means IRP's coming back. I really don't care what the tragedy is. I literally don't. It could be Daytona. It could be Martinsville. I don't care.
All right. Well, Rob has shared his thoughts on that one. I would hate to see Canadian Tire Motorsports lose out on a date 2 years in a row, but IRP they should have just added IRP for a 25th race. I digress.
They should have done that to begin with, but hey, if the idea is being tossed around, then that means that, hey, who knows? Maybe future schedules. Right. It's hosting SRX, which, by the way, we didn't talk about. SRX released pictures of the car today.
Yes, looks good.
Oh my gosh, it looks like a cross between an 80s or 90s Ferrari and a Plymouth Superbird. I love it.
Yeah, they're at Caraway. Yeah, it looked good on the track with the watching it go around and the pictures. This look very good. But John Hunter Nemechek, real quick to sum this up, I think he kind of caught a couple people worried when he said, "Hey, I'm going back down to the trucks to win races." And I think I called it like redemption, but I think this might be a little bit of a rejuvenation. But I think it also takes a lot of pressure off. He's won so early. Now he can really concentrate on, okay, let's go out. Let's fine tune our chemistry, the trucks, and let's go win more races and get more playoff points down the stretch in the regular season.
I still like this move by John Hunter. I still think that this is the best move because nobody has ever questioned, at least not that I've ever heard, and if they have, it's not credible because, let's be honest, nobody's ever questioned John Hunter's talent level. Kid is fast. Kid has a lot of raw talent. Kid is really good. He was moved up really quickly.
Yes.
In kind of mid-level, not-so-great teams. So who's he going to impress running 20th? The fact of the matter is, again, let's not forget this guy routinely outran Michael McDowell. So, again, I'm not going to feel bad for what I said about McDowell. He routinely outran Michael McDowell last year. So nobody's ever doubted that John Hunter's had talent. But he's never really had the opportunity to show it in a championship winning equipment. You know, even when he was driving for his dad's team in the truck series, that's not championship level equipment. It's race winning equipment. Yeah, sure. Correct. But that's only because John Hunter's behind the wheel. You put anybody else behind the wheel, you put Joe behind the wheel, it's probably a 20th place truck. You know, you put John Hunter behind the wheel, it can run within the top 5. And John Hunter has always shown that he's everybody knows he's a good talent. And that's not to say, you know, I rip on Joe. Joe was a great driver in his heyday too. No disrespect to Joe. Right. No disrespect to Front Row Joe. I love Front Row Joe. He's one of my first favorite drivers. Don't get me wrong. I love that guy. But his son has a lot of raw talent right now. And when he was put in his car, he did a lot better for them. But then again, you know, age is going to have a lot to do with that. But nobody's ever doubted John Hunter's driving ability. And I think this just proved to all of us what we already knew, is that as soon as this kid gets in championship level equipment, good luck to the rest of the field.
Yes. All right, on to the Xfinity Series now. Let's just start out. Ty Dillon's just got some poor luck in 3 races here. And he's only got one more left with JGR. And I don't know how many more opportunities he'll get now that Ty Gibbs has got 14 more races coming up in that 54 car.
Did you listen to the 15? He had a 15-minute podcast he put out today addressing this weekend. It was. If you get a chance to listen to it, go ahead and listen to it. He just talks really candidly about just how rough it's been. You know, he's someone he's trying to make it without RCR, and you can tell. You know, he understands the criticisms that have made of him, and he knows he is a good race car driver, and I think I do too. I've never said I don't like to say that Ty Dillon is not a talented driver. I've seen him. This is the same guy that outran Kyle Busch at Indianapolis during the years that Kyle Busch absolutely dominated the Brickyard. So sure. I am not going to, in any way, shape, or form, take anything away from that, because that a performance alone, I don't care if it's his only Xfinity Series win to date. I don't care. That was the most impressive thing I've ever seen somebody do. And again, it's another reason why I always never minded Kyle Busch being in the Xfinity Series, because you always got moments like that where you had drivers that were proving themselves. Hey, I just beat the best of the business, the guy in the best car, the best driver in the field, in the best car. I just beat him at Indianapolis, a place that he has dominated. Ty Dillon is the only person right now that can say that. And he's betting on himself here. And to hear him go through that, you know, just bad luck, the bad luck he's endured, the hardships he's going through right now, even though he's like, I'm incredibly blessed to be a race car driver, but look, it gets tough to run at the back. It gets tough to have these days when you know you're not performing where you're supposed to be. He just talks really candidly about it. And I just think if you haven't listened to it, please take a listen to it. Because if we're talking about Ty Dillon's poor luck here, I mean, that's something that really humanizes Ty. And I had a lot of respect for him after last year. The things he did, the work he did with Bubba really elevated him in my eyes personally. Not just primarily more as a person than a driver. I always held him in high regards as a person, but maybe not so much as a driver. But I always held him in high regards as a driver, but maybe not as much as a person. But now I hold him in high regards in both. And so just to hear him talk about his poor luck. I mean, he said it himself. His goal was to get stage points or to win stage one. And when you start in the back, that's a lofty goal. But he's like, I'm in the best car. I should, and that's the kind of pressure that a lot of these drivers are putting on themselves week in and week out. And it really gives you a whole sense of just how tough it is to run in NASCAR's top 3 series. Even when you have a famous last name, your grandfather owns Richard Childress Racing, and you're trying to make it on your own because people criticized you your whole career as having a silver spoon in your mouth. Now you're trying to go do it for yourself, and you feel like you're letting your critics win. Yeah. I just felt I felt with Ty there, and I wanted to share that with all of you since we were talking about his race. And I didn't hear anything about Riley Herbst, but I mean, he was involved in that incident. Ty got way off scot-free is essentially in that incident where Herbst's day was ended, and that was the most beautiful car in the field because I love a South Point car too. I was sad to see that because Herbst was driving the best car. I don't personally care for Riley Herbst, but I love that car. So anytime a South Point car gets torn up, I'm going to get pretty upset.
Yeah, it's just definitely Ty Dillon had only 4 opportunities, and like I mentioned, I don't know if he's going to get another one in that 54 car or not because Busch is going to have his 5.
He said he's got another chance. No, I guess the Xfinity and Cup Series is going in there because he said he was going to the Bristol Dirt Race. So I guess the Xfinity Series is going to the Bristol Dirt Race. I guess I was wrong on that. I don't know why I was disappointed by that.
I don't think
I just said something false earlier, but then I remembered that Ty Dillon was talking in his podcast from this morning that he was going to his next start was at the Bristol Dirt Race. I think.
Is it in the trucks or Cup? Yeah. Xfinity Series doesn't go to Bristol.
Oh, it's not going. Okay, then never mind. I don't know what it is then. Maybe it is Cup.
Or maybe he's racing.
Probably is Cup. Maybe Gaunt Brothers is on the schedule for that one.
That's right. They're qualifying.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that would be his next chance. So okay, you're right. So I wasn't wrong. I was just thinking differently. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember. I heard him say Bristol Dirt Race, and I was like, wait a minute. The Xfinity Series doesn't go there. But wait, why did he say Cup? Gaunt Brothers. I'm stupid. I forgot about. We're talking about Xfinity, and I forgot about his Cup ride. That's on me. But yeah, no. I want to talk about a little bit of this Xfinity Series race outside of Ty Dillon because I know you want to talk about it. This was a good race. This was a very good race. This was a very good and entertaining race. I enjoyed a lot of this race. I love the fact that right now we're looking at 4 different winners in the Cup and the Xfinity Series in 4 different weeks, and I am all about that. Is it the same? It's not the same in the Truck Series too, is it?
No, you had Ben Rhodes.
Ben Rhodes. Yeah, okay, you're right. Ben Rhodes won the opening too. I forgot. But yeah, so I love that right now. But dude, this Xfinity Series race again. The Xfinity Series is peak. I mean, those last 15 laps were outstanding.
Yeah, the final stage was really good. Kind of got a little crashy there for a second, but yeah, it was really good. Really good race. Just awesome moving around. I felt like air was a little too important, but it wasn't so much to where it was cut bad. It wasn't at that anywhere near that level. So if you go back and you look at the Homestead race versus Las Vegas, of course tires are a little bit different, but still it's still a good race, still a great race. My goodness, if we could just get whatever the Xfinity Series is doing. We all know what the Xfinity Series is doing. Rob and I have beat this horse that we have been beating for nearly 2 years. All right, is down to basically nothing. There's nothing left of this. We are beating blood-soaked ground at this point, and Yeah, I don't get it. And here's one thing I wanted to point out that is part of the problem in the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series. Ryan Sieg has the most simple spin in the world. Clips the grass. And the splitter is removed violently from his car. And then you have Logano and Kurt Busch up in the booth. Guess why we need turf, man. It's like, no, it's not.
No, this is why we need a valence.
Valence. Okay, I get turf. Maybe that is a great long-term. You can do a lot with it. I don't know. But a valence on the front of Ryan Sieg's car at worst gets bent in. And guess what his team can do? They can put the jack in on the driver's side and pull out the valence. Now, like, well, crap. Let's try to meet minimum speed. We don't have a splitter. I don't know if it's a required part. It probably
the splitter is stuck in the ground. The speed boomerang is stuck in the ground.
Take that out of the ground? I never did see an image of it.
Send a crew member all the way out there. Rip it out.
Yeah, it's look, the turf at Charlotte Motor Speedway is awesome. Okay, it is very cool, and it serves a great purpose for when they do the Roval race. We've seen it save cars, but it's not the means to the end that we are looking for, and that is quit tearing up cars. Gosh, I hope I live to see a day where a valence returns to Cup and Xfinity and truck vehicles, because that was something that never should have happened. Quickly, JRM back on track. 3 cars in the top 10. Allgaier just tapered off there, unfortunately, the second half of the race. But Daniel Hemrick, I'm telling you, he's going to win a race this year. 8th now. Twice in Xfinity, but he was the best JGR car out there. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would have to agree. Hemrick. The thing about Hemrick is he's like toying with people on whether or not he's good or not. He's gonna win. I feel like he's gonna win. I just don't know when. I don't know. It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't know. I don't know what to say about Daniel Hemrick. I feel like he should have won by now, but the fact that he hasn't, it never ceases to amaze me.
This guy's
not won yet.
4s in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah. He's been through every major Xfinity team. RCR, JRM, JGR. If Jack Roush was still in the Xfinity Series, I bet you he would have been with them at some point. I mean, it just amazes me how many shots he could get and still not have a win. He came close. He was definitely the best JGR car, but that was mainly because Ty Dillon had his problems. If Ty Dillon doesn't have his problems, I don't know if that's the case.
I don't know about
Brandon Jones was in the top 5 most of the day.
He was, but I feel like Daniel Hemrick just had the better car that day, better setup. Well,
yeah, I mean, racing in COVID era, like they were talking about on Kurt Busch said he loved it because there's no practice qualifying. Well, yeah, that's all good and fine, but, entire race weekends can be written off as losses if you come with the wrong setup on race day, and it's something you should be able to fix in the garage, but you don't have any time to go to the garage, so you just are screwed. You just kind of have to ride it out and adjust what you can on pit road until, the race is over. And that's the issue that I tend to don't like. When you show up to those races, nobody has any opportunity to see if their car is even going to be raceable. You show up and it's just like a gamble based on last year's setup or 2 years setups ago. I don't know, but that's my opinion, and that's only because of COVID restrictions, and I know it's coming back next year, but I'm still frustrated that we can at the very least have a quick practice session to at least help the drivers get their cars dialed in.
Right. And I just want to say this on the redemption deal. It's nice to see AJ Allmendinger running where he should have been running, I think, the majority of his Cup career. Up front, he's a talented race car driver. I think a lot of people forget he was talented. He was a very talented. He thought this guy's going to do great things with Red Bull. And then
some people don't remember how fast he came onto the champ car scene.
Yeah.
Like one day he's a rookie no one's heard of, and the next day he's winning the next 4 races in a row, and he's a championship favorite. And what?
Yeah.
It's like he came on in 0 to 50, like 0 to 100, like that.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ has always been talented. I think anybody who doubts AJ never watched Champ Car in 2006. Never. I mean, even look. Let's be honest. The main competition there was Bourdais and Wilson, and that's just a fact. Nobody's gonna take that away. You could say Paul Tracy, but Paul Tracy post 2003. Sebastian Bourdais lived rent-free in his head, and he was just a shell of a race car driver. Not that he was ever good to begin with, but he's just a shell of a race car driver by this point. So the only real talent in Champ Car is Bourdais and Wilson, and Allmendinger just walks right in there and whips both of them, man. And I could say this because I don't care for Paul Tracy. And I guess some people say nobody's really sure if he's still with NBC. He's doing SRX this summer. I don't really know what he's doing. I just hope he's fired because, man, I cannot stand this Paul Tracy dude. Paul Tracy is annoying the crap out of me. He says he lives rent-free in Reddit's head, but the truth is Sebastian Bourdais has lived rent-free in his head since 2003, and he's still crashing there every so often.
Well, I'll add this last point with AJ. Obviously, a championship favorite. I mean, he's got the win. But I'm going to say right here, I honestly think this championship is going to come down between Allmendinger and Cindric. I think it's going to be that kind of a year. He's getting Allmendinger's got exponentially better at the ovals, and I'm excited for this. And Cindric too, just his maturity. He's had too. Rob, you're kind of making eyes like I don't know if you're thinking.
No, I'm agreeing with you. It's just that I hadn't been thinking about like championship favorites yet, but I was thinking the other day. I was like, dude, what if Brandon Jones is a championship sleeper?
I think he is. I think that's a very solid take.
I mean, this is the thing. Nobody's talked about Brandon Jones the last couple of weeks, but every time they do, he's in the top 5, just sitting there. He makes no noise, but he's always up front. And it's like, I knew another driver like that, but they were usually 10th or something or worse. But this is a totally different story where you're looking at a guy who's typically top 5s, consistently top 10s. Like, okay, Brandon Jones, I see you. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we get down to playoff time. Because I think he could probably nab a win here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Cup Series time now. Only 2 cautions for incident. Not many loose cars.
I was not upset about that because let me tell you something. This race had some good green flag racing, and so I here's the thing. I only was able to watch like the second about half of the second stage and then the rest of the race, and then I had to start working, so I didn't really see the last like say maybe 60 laps maybe. But I went and rewatched it, and I was really upset about this because the race, the parts of the race that I was watching was really, really good. Like there were 3 wide racing for the lead. You have consistent lead changes. You have battles all over the track. It seemed like everybody was close within one another. I was like, I may say I'll say it again. It's artificial excitement. I still think the tapered spacer is ridiculous. When Larry Mack was talking about tapered spacer, he goes, these things could be making 950 horsepower. I'm like, damn, why don't we have that? I want it back. But anyway, I was like, you know what though? This racing was good. You didn't have many cautions for incidents. And I know you talked about that. But I didn't hate that because I thought the pit strategy combined with the on-track product was really, really good compared to other cup races I've seen in the past 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I really enjoyed that and even when I was watching it again, kind of from like a half biased, half objective point of view, where half biased meaning I really already liked it, and then half objective being, oh, maybe there were parts that I missed that sucked and I only saw the good parts, No, but like the whole thing was good. The whole thing was just really good. Good pit strategy. It honestly, it came down to a pretty close, pretty good finish. The best car still won. I would say Kyle Larson was the best car. He still ended up winning, so it wasn't like NASCAR, the rules penalized the best car or something. They were talking about the big spoiler, making it hard for cars to get away and stuff. Well, yeah, but the best car still won the race, and that's how it's supposed to be. They're not supposed to get away, but they're still supposed to win the race, and that's what I really liked. There was a lot of passing, there was a lot of lead changes, there was good pit strategy. I enjoyed the race wholeheartedly, and that is something I've not said about a NASCAR race probably since about last year. But, well, I shouldn't say that. I liked last week's race, but the mile and a half package right now in NASCAR has been really good, and I said it on Twitter. I will be interested to see if this carries over into Phoenix, because what we saw last year at Phoenix was not very good. The championship was just the championship race was just terrible. I mean, Homestead would have again been a better racetrack to finish the championship on. At the very least, go back to Atlanta. Or I know we have an upshift and downshift here, and I'm obviously what I'm going to say about it, but just Phoenix is an awful choice for a season finale. But maybe if they can nail it on the package, maybe for next week, maybe that'll change. I hope that they do. I hope that what we've seen the past couple of weeks is an indicator that hopefully Phoenix will be a good race, and it'll put all of my my worries at ease, and know that, okay, the championship is probably going to be a little bit better this year. Because we're in it for entertainment. This is racing it's a business, and it's a sport, and it's an entertainment all wrapped into one, and that's why we love it. So I know I had a long-winded rant about that, but that's my take on the Cup Series. So, Josh, I'm going to go ahead and let you give your takeaway on the Cup Series, and I'm going to try and not interrupt you at all.
Well, just to kind of piggyback, I didn't watch the race in full, and didn't unfortunately have a way to record it, but I did watch the extended highlights, and I kind of share what you said. I thought the racing was probably one of the better Las Vegas races in at least the past 2-3 years. For sure. Ever since the introduction of the giant ass spoilers, as Dale Earnhardt Jr. has so greatly coined for us. But yeah, I just wish that we just didn't have the spoilers. We have more horsepower. The Xfinity Series race was so good. And I just wish we could get to a point there with the Cup Series, because what we got, like as you mentioned, racing is a sport, and sport is a subcategory of entertainment. Okay, don't ever don't ever forget that. And you mentioned that. I kind of extended it there, put it in my own words. And you got to be entertained. And you mentioned it there. You were entertained with the strategy and the racing. It'd be great if we could get that at every mile and a half track we go to. So, and then you mentioned Phoenix. Hopefully it carries over. Maybe we've all learned something. All the teams have learned something, and they are able to put on the best Phoenix race in at least 2 years, because 19 was very disappointing. 20 was better. We're trending in the right direction here. What we're getting at, Ralph. So that's good. I did want to mention here, because I think we're going to hit this historical mark this season. Hendrick Motorsports' 265th career Cup Series win. That's 3 away from tying the Richard Petty Motorsports lineage of wins for most all time in the NASCAR Cup Series. I think we would be amiss to think that Hendrick Motorsports isn't going to win again this year. I think they have Larson and Elliott too talented not to win again. And Byron's probably going to crank out another win or two. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Bowman, again, I wouldn't be surprised. He's got some of his better tracks too.
Whatever track Bowman wins at, better be worried, because the past has indicated that if Alex Bowman wins at your track, your future is very cloudy.
Oh, okay. That's mean. That's mean.
I love Alex Bowman. Don't get me wrong. I love that guy. But I feel like if he wins, when he wins a race, the track becomes cursed.
Well, Chicagoland isn't completely done yet. It's not looking good. And Auto Club's just being renovated drastically.
Drastically, meaning he's going to be the final winner at that incarnation of Auto Club Speedway, probably.
They're going to race here in 2022 on the 2 Mile Oval.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure when they were going forward with that.
Yeah, they said that they're going to race there one more time. So that's what I wanted to note there. I think that's going to be pretty cool to watch. Everyone's counting down to that. It's going to be a big moment in the sport because, obviously Richard Petty Motorsports, I think Richard Petty won 197 or 98 of his career wins with that team. And obviously you have a bunch with Lee Petty, Pete Hamilton, and is sprinkled in with a few other drivers there along the way as well. Outstanding performance. Rob, who do you have for this week at Las Vegas?
This weekend's 10th place finisher in the Cup Series, Mr. Eric Jones. I was very impressed with him. Again, he struggled the past couple of weeks. Again, getting acclimated to Petty. He's been in JGR equipment his entire career in NASCAR up until this point. So it's probably going to be a huge adjustment from going from the best stuff to maybe not the best stuff. But it really does look like he had a good run this weekend. I was very impressed where he came from pretty much the back of the field and passed a lot of cars. Had some good pit strategy calls and started running up front there a little bit and ended up finishing in the top 10. And that's really good to score your first top 10. Scoring a top 10 with that 43 car and getting that 43 car back to where it probably should be, which is, in top 5 contention and in the winner's circle. I think that would in general be really good for NASCAR racing to see the 43 winning again. I think that would make a lot of people feel a lot better, probably feel happier. And no matter who's in it, it doesn't really matter. As long as Richard Petty still is there every week and next to the car, it doesn't matter if 75% of it is owned by a bank. As long as Petty's still there, who cares? Everybody's going to be happy. So, I'm just happy to see that. I thought Eric Jones ran a great race this weekend, and I just hope to see it continue because I've always said Eric Jones is a really good driver who deserves all the opportunities he's been given. It just didn't work out with Joe Gibbs, unfortunately. Something wasn't clicking, and obviously either they didn't care enough to invest or he was just ready to move on. Whatever happened, and I'm just happy to see him run well with Richard Petty.
I'm going with Santino Ferrucci.
How dare you? Sorry.
Look. Again, he had a quiet race until the final 10 laps, and he had a little scuff up with Justin Allgaier, which everyone got away clean. I don't think either driver necessarily did anything wrong. It was a racing incident. Santino just didn't move up the track as quickly as Justin thought he would, and Justin Allgaier's right front hit Santino's left rear, and that everyone got away clean. Everyone finished the race, but he finished 13th. And he was on the lead lap, benefited from a late caution. But I think the biggest point here is that, again, he ran a clean race, didn't make any noise, and I think he outperformed where that car maybe should be running. I know when I listened to a podcast with Kelly Crandall with Santino, it sounds like Toyota. He made it sound like Toyota's throwing a lot of money at him. Now, how much money that is, I don't know. It feels like it's probably more than what Sam Hunt Racing's got in the past. But this is a team that has 14 starts, and I wouldn't have expected them to be running 13th really with probably anybody. So that, to me, is an impressive run. We'll see how the other races play out. But I definitely feel like, Santino outperformed the equipment, and he's maybe outperformed where he should be running, and maybe that speaks more about his talent. So that just impressed me this week. So outstanding, impressive performance from my part. All right, Rob, on to Upshift, Downshift.
Yay.
One of our favorite segments, if not the favorite segment of the week. And it's time for it never fails for one of us to say how this works, but we have to remind everyone. And we apologize for that. Now I apologize for the apology again. Why are we apologizing for just telling people how this works if they're new?
Because we're very, very nervous all the time.
Very nervous all the time.
I have general anxiety disorder, so that's why. I can joke about it because I've accepted it, but...
Well, we won't joke about it anymore. We're just going to explain about how this works, and then we're going to do it. So upshift, downshift. Upshift means you agree. Downshift means you disagree. Rob and I might even throw it into neutral because, we don't have enough information. We're not quite sure. Or in some cases, rare cases, we just don't care about the subject, which I feel like we've only done maybe a handful of times in the 70, 80 podcasts we've done. So that's good. You maybe won't hear us say that a lot. We'll have a hypothetical or a news-related deal or just something going on in the racing world. So question number 1, NASCAR shouldn't allow Cup Series drivers to compete in the Camping World Truck Series dirt race at Bristol. Do you upshift or downshift?
Oh, come on. That's a downshift on me. If they need to get... Look, there's a lot of drivers out there that probably haven't raced on dirt in a long time. There's a lot of Cup drivers out there who probably never raced on dirt, period. And even if they have, it's probably minimal, if that. Yes, I know that there's a lot of drivers whose entire upbringings has been on dirt. But there's a lot of drivers who grew up not racing on dirt, who grew up racing late models on pavement, every week. These are the kinds of guys that I would expect to try and go down to the truck series and get some experience to try and figure out how this big, heavy stock car or stock truck, whatever, is going to handle on a dirt track. Why should NASCAR stop that? You're just look, and also in an era where practice and qualifying, I know we're having practice at the Bristol dirt race, but in an era where practice is so limited, I just don't think you should be limiting these drivers' track time if you want to put on a good race. The last thing you want to do is have a guy completely out of their league trying to get their pants underneath them for the first time in their heat race. The least you can do is let them run a truck race, and if they could qualify, then let them run. Who cares? Nobody's going to say, and they're probably not going to win. It's not like you're letting Kyle Busch in and he's going to win and all. I mean, you don't have a guarantee that this 1 or 2 Cup guys are going to win. It's probably going to be won by a truck regular, let's be honest, who's actually going to prepare for going to another dirt race at Knoxville. It behooves the truck racers to do better. The incentive for the Cup racer is to get better for one race. There's nothing wrong with letting him run. There's nothing wrong with letting him run. I've always said there's nothing wrong with letting Cup drivers run in the lower divisions, but I know that's a controversial statement. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and downshift. I think NASCAR should allow them. Yes, absolutely.
Part of me wants to say yes. Part of me wants to say no. So guess what I'm going to do, folks? I'm going to throw it into neutral and split the difference. Part of me wants to upshift and say, yeah, they shouldn't allow. I think, trying to find a spot for everyone is obviously impossible for the race. And then part of me says, yeah, who cares? They're trying to, as you said, they want to get better for that race. They want to do as best they can because every race counts in this era of NASCAR, which is great and fantastic. But I'm going to throw it into neutral because I have conflicting opinions with myself. And at this point in time, March 8th, 9th, 2021, I can't come to a straight decision on it. Phoenix Raceway, next question here. Phoenix Raceway will produce a 5th different winner through 5 races for both the Xfinity Series and Cup Series. Do you upshift or downshift?
I am going to upshift and knock on wood because I really want this to happen and I don't want to jinx it.
I upshift. I upshift too.
Fair.
And I knocked on wood as well. I'm really hoping this happens because it'd just be so cool. I mean,
hell, even if Kevin Harvick wins, that still counts as a different winner.
I don't care. I don't care who the different winner is. As long as it's someone who hasn't won in the Cup Series in 2021 and the Xfinity Series in 2021, I don't care. Let's do it. It'd be great to see. It's great storylines because when you think about it, you mentioned it earlier. Side note, of the 11 national division races, we have had 10 winners. Ben Rose is the only driver to repeat on the national level.
I love that stat so much right now.
It's a great
parity.
Stat.
That's called parity right there.
That is very much.
Boyer was hyping on it at Homestead, and I didn't really believe him. But now seeing that stat, I know we're only 4 races in, but that's parity.
Yeah, it is. We asked for parity. Some people asked for parity, and they got it.
Hey, all right, so part of what made the late 90s and early 2000s so great was the parity. The fact that, yeah, Jeff Gordon could win, but also Joe Nemechek could randomly win, and it'd be totally believable. And he could beat Ricky Rudd to the line at Kansas. Things that actually happened.
Didn't he win at Rockingham, too, in 01? Fall race?
Nemechek?
I think he did.
Yes, he did. In Andy Petrie.
Yeah. 33.
And Andy Petrie won also earlier that year at Talladega.
With Bobby Hamilton. Caution-free race.
Second to last caution-free race.
Yeah.
Ever in NASCAR. Excuse me. Second to last caution-free race at a super speedway ever in NASCAR.
Yep.
The next one would come in 2002 in the fall race.
Dale Jr.
And then that would be the last one.
Yep. Third question here. Hendrick Motorsports has 2 wins with 2 drivers through 4 races. Joe Gibbs Racing has 1 win in 4 races. Do you upshift or downshift that Hendrick Motorsports has all 4 drivers reach victory lane before JGR?
This is going to be... Let's just look at where they are right now. The only one that's got the win is Bell. Bell's been the consistently improving one. Hamlin's been consistent. Busch and Truex have been pretty inconsistent. Busch had a pretty good run last week. Truex is going rough. Hendrick's been on a tear. They got 3 of their 4 drivers in victory lane already. It's only a matter of time until Alex Bowman ends up winning one of these things.
2. Chase hasn't won.
Chase hasn't won. Why did I stupidly think Chase has won?
Because
he won the Clash, or he should have won the Clash. Excuse me.
He should have won the Clash in the road course, Daytona.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But okay, they got 2 out of the 4. JGR has 1 out of 4. I like those odds a little bit better. I'm sorry. I'm going a half over 25%. I'm gonna upshift and say yeah, probably.
Yeah, I feel the same. I upshift, but I'd feel more inclined to downshift if Busch and Truex were running better. And this COVID era of racing does not suit them at all. I think they need
to be working on their cars.
Exactly. They like that work on their cars throughout the week. They're going to run crappy in practice, and they're going to come out there and qualify really well and race really well when they've hit it. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, Chase Elliott can make it three in a row for Hendrick at Phoenix. He's run well there in the past 3-4 races.
He won the championship there last year, so.
Precisely. So that right there is going to up your odds. So I upshift as well. I do think all 8 of those drivers are going to find victory lane this year. It's just kind of that race to which organization can put all 4 in victory lane first. And I'm going to upshift for Hendrick Motorsports. Last question here, Rob. We've already alluded to it a little bit. Las Vegas Motor Speedway would be a great track to be included in a rotation of season finale tracks for the NASCAR series. Do you upshift or downshift?
So I remember first hearing this like years ago. Bruton Smith was all like, I want Las Vegas to be the series finale. And I was like, man, that's stupid. And then they took it away from Homestead. And as much as I want Homestead as a season finale again, if that's not possible, if like that can't happen, then by all means it should be Vegas. Because I think this past weekend has proven that Vegas can put on a way better show. Especially with this package, than Phoenix ever will. And let's be honest, Vegas is better. You want to end your season. You don't, nobody goes and says, what's a destination city? Phoenix. Nobody says that. I've never met a person who says that Phoenix is a destination city. You know where they say? They say Miami. They say Las Vegas. They say Los Angeles. Those are the 3 destinations that people talk about. Where do you have racetracks in? 2 of those 3. Well, Los Angeles is. You have one in Los Angeles, but you're not going to finish the season at Auto Club. Sorry, it's just not going to happen. But if the option is Las Vegas or Homestead, I'm going to take Homestead. But if Homestead's not an option, it should be Vegas. So I'm going to upshift. Vegas should be the option. And if this weekend's race proved it, it would put on a way better show, I think.
I'll say one thing before I answer. I think Auto Club half mile or 2 miles should be included in a rotation of season finale races. That'd be awesome. I think to end on a short track. I mean, come on, that'd be freaking cool.
See, okay, here's the thing. Here's just the thing. My thing about that is you have races. The season finale race, I think, in my opinion, needs to be on an all-encompassing racetrack. And in that case, I think that means 1.5 miles. Because you have drivers that are short track specialists, you have drivers that are or super speedway specialists, you have drivers that are road course specialists. But in order to succeed in NASCAR, you have to be good at those other 3 types of tracks, but then also be really, really good at 1.5 miles, because those are what comprise most of the schedule. So it only makes sense to finish the season on a track type that you race most of your races at. Since you race most of the races at 1.5 miles, it only makes sense to end the season at 1.5 miles. That's why Homestead worked for as long as it did. Flat or banked, it didn't matter. Homestead still worked. as a finale track, but I don't think Phoenix does. Las Vegas would. Las Vegas would work a lot better, and I don't think California would even then as a 2-mile oval or as a short track. I just don't think it would work very well because you'd have guys that, first of all, a 2-mile race would not be as entertaining as it should be. In a short track race, you just have short track drivers going to the front, and if the fourth seeded guy is not the best on short tracks, but okay, pretty consistent, well, he's just SOL. He's just out of luck. He has no chance. Whereas you put them all on the same type of track that they run all season, 1.5 miles, it's more. There's more opportunities for parity, and that's where my logic is coming from.
Well, I will twist your logic and say, what if Kyle Larson had made the championship 4 at Homestead? He was always good there. He would be like, well, he's exponentially better than the other 3 guys. He should win.
The same things about Kevin Harvick at Phoenix.
All right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You want to reward the most consistent driver at the end of the day. And the way to do that is to end the season in the most fair and equal way possible. And how do you do that? You go to a track you go to a type of track that makes up most of the schedule. That's just how. If you go to a track that doesn't make up very much of the schedule, that makes up only a small percentage of the schedule, like a short track, a road course, or something else, or like a super speedway, say 2 miles or bigger, you're going to run into this issue where you have certain drivers that are better than others because of just their skill sets, and that's not what you're looking for in parity. You're looking to put those 4 drivers that made it this far in an equal situation where all 4 of them have an equal opportunity at making the championship.
Well, life isn't fair, and I'm going to upshift for, Las Vegas should be included in a rotation of tracks because I think it's better in the long term for a playoff in the NASCAR season to end at a different track every few years. Whether that's Homestead should absolutely be included in that. Las Vegas should be included in that. And I would throw Atlanta. I do throw Phoenix in there because I believe in different types of tracks. I think, the days of being able to race at one or be good at, just one type of track are over. You have to be good at every single one you go to. So if that when the schedule gets released, typically in a non-COVID world, it's not going to be in the springtime. That in April, that the following November, late October, you're going to be racing at X track for the championship. You better know how to race there. You have no excuses. It's why Kevin Harvick didn't make the championship for this past year. He couldn't race at Martinsville. He couldn't get around the track. That is he and Rodney Childers' fault that they are not in the championship 4 race at Phoenix in 2020. Yet they knew long before then that Martinsville was going to be the cutoff race. So to me, in that logic, this question is kind of morphed here. But Las Vegas should be. It's a destination city. It's I think it's more family friendly than it was a long time ago. And it puts on great racing, and it has the potential to put on greater racing. So that's why it deserves to be there.
Okay, well, we disagree. We disagree. That's fine.
We disagree.
But hey, that's everything for the upshift, downshift, which means we're actually making pretty good time here. We've got like almost 15 minutes left. Josh, we could do Rollers Featured Racetrack and be out of here on time. Our good listeners will finally be like, oh, they did take up all of my lunch break again.
Well, yes, we're going to be a little bit on time here today. So today I'm doing something I've never done before on this podcast, but it seemed like a very appropriate time. We're going to debate this. It's going to be great. Because of the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series schedule is full of drastic changes, and another one is yet to come when Auto Club Speedway is transformed following the 2022 race weekend into a short track, and now the possibility of Nashville Fairgrounds returning to the Cup Series closer to reality. Today, I will revisit Stardust International Raceway, and at the end, I will propose the same question to Rob as I did on August 20th, 2019, and we'll have a little back and forth again, I think. So when Stardust International Raceway opened in 1965, Las Vegas's population was estimated at 149,000 persons. The Union Pacific Railroad still operated a yard in downtown Las Vegas, and no interstates had arrived yet, a far cry from the 2.2 million person desert metropolis that has sprung up in just 6 decades, less than 6 decades. It was located 4 miles away from the center of Las Vegas and was built, owned, and operated by the Stardust Resort and Casino in an effort to attract wealthy and glamorous high rollers, as many sporting events in Las Vegas did. According to a press release by Stardust, Sterling Moss was to design the course. At the end of the day, however, he had very little to do with the ultimate design of the early stages. Track owners were said to be the Stardust Racing Association that included officers from the Stardust Resort and Casino. The track was 3 miles in length, 13 turns, and it became the answer to for road racing in Las Vegas after a couple of failures, including an SCCA race held at McCarran Field, now McCarran International Airport, and that was in 1960, and other tracks such as Las Vegas Speedway Park, which I did discuss last September, and Thunderbird Speedway. Amenities were lacking at the facility, even for 1965, which, as we all know, and if you listen to this, you know anything about your racing history, amenities were kind of crappish in 1965. So to be below the amenity standards, you were doing something bad. And then coupled to that, you're in Las Vegas. You need to have something to blow people's minds. Otherwise, you do not stick around that town for very long. The first race was a non-spectator Cal Club race weekend in October 1965 and was won by Jim Parkinson. The club racers were treated to an extremely lavish cocktail party. Obviously, that probably was something not seen at other events. The first, quote, big race was held on November 14th. It had a $36,700 purse and was known as the Stardust Grand Prix. The Stardust Casino bought 7 pages in the November 27th issue of the competition press displaying the virtues of the track and the Las Vegas as an amenity-driven destination. Again, kind of, you know, it didn't fit well with what actually was reality.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed a little bit of false advertising if you're touting amenities only to, have not the greatest amenities.
Exactly. It kind of, they were definitely driving it up. And of course, as I can't remember if I mentioned or not, but there, the mob maybe had something to do with this a little bit. Just remember that too. In 1966, the U.S. Road Racing Championship and Can-Am Racing Series arrived. The U.S. RRC began their season at Stardust, and it was figuratively and literally rocky for both the series and track. Dust and rocks plagued the track, and one rock even struck local racer Buck Fulp in the face, sending him to the hospital. Breakdowns with oil spills that mixed with the sand made for a dangerous race. On top of that, the spectator count was low and blamed on the 90-degree heat. So you had you had a really crappy race. Let's just put it that way. Could you imagine, though? I mean, you know what mud's like. Try driving on the mud.
I've been to a bad race, so I don't think I'd want to ever go back to a bad race again.
No.
I've been to a bad race, trust me. Bad Boy Mowers Indy Invitational 2015-ish. Worst race I've ever seen in my life.
I've seen some muddy races. I've seen some bad muddy races. Those aren't fun. So now doing it on pavement with slicks, it's not good. It's not good at all.
No.
The 1967 U.S. RRC season opening race of Stardust saw fewer than 5,000 people attend. Even names like Mark Donohue, Sam Posey, and George Fulmer weren't enough to attract a bigger crowd. It also didn't help that the USSRC was floundering against Trans Am and Can-Am series at the time. Only 11 of the 24 cars finished due to attrition. The Las Vegas 350 Trans Am race was held that September and began at sunset and finished under the stars. Mark Donohue in his Penske Camaro won the event, besting the season-long better Mustangs and Cougars that season. In 1968, the USAC traveled to the circuit for its lone visit. Only 18 of IndyCar's competitors traveled to Vegas. The March 31st race saw Chuck Hulsey and Dempsey Wilson not even start, and Dan Gurney exited with listed suspension failure, but Gurney blamed Bobby Unser for tossing pea gravel on him on purpose. Unser denied intentionally tossing the gravel at Gurney by going off the course, so tossing it with his tires a little bit there. Unser said he didn't go off the course, but that that didn't mean a driver didn't drive through the sand and gravel, and maybe he had already tossed it back up at him. That was already on the track. Who knows? He's the only one who really knows what happened there. Bobby Unser did end up winning that race. Mario Andretti was second. Gary Bettenhausen finished 10th and was 10th of the 10 cars running at the end, but he was 15 laps down from Unser's 50 completed laps. The final race at Stardust featured the same group who put on the first event, the Cal Club. Alan Johnson won the event in a Porsche 910 in a field that featured Lolas, McLarens, Stingrays, Cougars, and Porsches. The downfall of Stardust really began when the new owners of Stardust Resort and Casino didn't want to invest the needed money to upgrade the facility to proper amenities and to put a new surface on the road, which just needed. I mean, you're talking about a track that when you go off, you don't have grass. It's the desert.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mix well. And then, you have the amenities. It just wasn't lavish, and it wasn't Las Vegas lavish. So it needed attention, and they didn't get it. Track manager Larry Horton leased the land, and he ended up running drag racing events until 1970. Real estate developer Party Homes bought the land for development. Today, the suburban neighborhood of Spring Valley occupies the land that Stardust once stood. Within 10 years of its closure, very little remained of the short-lived Las Vegas road course. By 1988, the suburban growth had consumed the land of the Raceway and had officially joined the rest of the ghosts of the Mojave Desert. And on March 13th, 2007, the Stardust Resort and Casino joined the Raceway among many former structures that once graced Las Vegas. Racing Reference, historical aerials, lost road courses by Martin Rudeau helped with today's, and again, a few years ago, that featured Racetrack back then. So I'm going to propose this to Rob quickly. I guess we probably should say, was the wrong type of racetrack built in Las Vegas? They should have Speedway Motorsports built a short track somewhere near downtown Las Vegas with casinos on every turn. Could you imagine a short track bull ring in the middle of Las Vegas instead of the 1.5-mile track we have today? Especially,
it makes sense.
With the short track.
It makes more sense. It would have made more sense to do in the 70s than when Stardust actually came out. Because when Stardust came out in the 56, NASCAR exists, but it's still very much in the South. It's not out there in Las Vegas. So who are you going to attract to a bull ring?
Now, I'm talking about when they built Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Oh, you would have preferred to have seen them build a short track at oh, boy. Oh, my gosh. Well, see, they already kind of built like a bull ring and a dirt track outside at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but
for the Cup guy, for the big series, man, when they said we're going to build a racetrack in Las Vegas.
No, because I want a fast racetrack. I would want it to be a fast racetrack. I wouldn't want it to be a short racetrack. I would want it to be able to showcase how. And at the beginning, I people forget this, but the IRL was one of the first series ever to race at Las Vegas before the Truck Series even did back in '96, and they did it again in '97, all the way through 2000. And they put on pretty good shows. Of course, they put on really good shows. And those cars were fast, especially in '96. Those were turbocharged engines that ran in Indianapolis that same year. So no, I think they did the right thing. I think that they did the right thing building a speedway there, because ultimately I think we look at short track racing now in a more positive light, because I think that's just what fans enjoy more. But back at the time, it made sense. And even then, now you could probably attract more big events. You want to attract big events. You don't want to attract small events. And you get big events in NASCAR. You don't really get big events in like, you could probably get the Truck Series there or something, but I mean, the Truck Series isn't going to draw what the Cup Series would. You're not going to draw. You're not going to get. I'm sorry, as much as I hate to say it, Hunter Nemechek is not going to draw as many people as Chase Elliott would. I hate to say it, but that's just the world we live in. So no, I still think they did the right choice building Las Vegas the way they did.
I think my opinion probably changes a little bit because I didn't go back because I didn't want to screw up what I say here. I think it'd be interesting to see in an alternate universe because Rob, you and I really like to explore the alternate universe of schedules.
Rick and Mortying this stuff, right?
Yeah. I would love to see what a duplicate of Bristol looks like in close to downtown Las Vegas at the time when they decided to build this track, and where you have, maybe not a casino in every turn as I question, but maybe a casino or two, and you have.
It works for Kansas. Kansas has a casino right on there, on their property.
But in downtown Las Vegas, I think it'd be cool.
It's close to Kansas City, though.
Because I think.
Kansas Speedway is beautiful. I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here. Kansas is a lot different than Las Vegas, but I'm saying Kansas is. If you've ever been to Kansas Speedway, that facility is beautiful, man.
It's a great facility. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying, I think it would be cool to see rebuild Bristol, because I think Bristol it's why so many people have questioned the dirt race is if it's not the best short track, it is one of the best short tracks that NASCAR goes to. And it's fast. You feel the sensation of speed on TV there, and I think that would be so cool to see it in a Vegas setting. But again, I digress. I just wanted to throw that question out there. So with that, I think it's time we probably should start wrapping up the show. 146 here now. What's in the windshield? We have a NASCAR triple header weekend at Phoenix Raceway. And yes, in case you are new to the show, I am considering it a triple header weekend. ARCA is now part of NASCAR. So it's a NASCAR triple header weekend out in the desert, because the ARCA Menard Series and ARCA Menard Series West will run a combination race on Friday night, the General Tire 150. In case you're wondering, the ARCA East doesn't race again until May 8th at Nashville Fairgrounds. So a little ways for them to until they race again. The Xfinity Series races on Saturday, March 13th. The Call 811 Before You Dig 200. They've had some interesting names for races this year. Beef. It's What's for Dinner 300. Daytona might take the cake for the best race name.
That one was the weirdest name. Still was the Power Shares QQQ 300. That made no sense to me. I don't know what QQQ stands for, but whatever it stands for, it's not in a race name.
All right, then. Then on Sunday, March 14th, the Instacart 500 will be contested by the NASCAR Cup Series. And a little friendly reminder, Formula One Drive to Survive debuts on March 19th. Netflix did release a trailer, and wow, it definitely, I'm excited to watch this. I loved Grosjean's wife's reaction to him saying, "I walked out of fire." And she's like, "Oh gosh, this is what I gotta live with, folks." It's great. And oh man, this is great to see that. So, and I'm excited to see that, because it's going to be a fun season to watch and recap from the lens of, well, what we've seen the first two seasons there. So, all right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for not watching, but maybe you did watch this on YouTube, but you're only going to see things change. Yeah, but you listened on YouTube. So if you did there, or you're listening on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever, thank you. We appreciate it. Our socials, Rob, Twitter is at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS33. I'm at Roller, ROLLER_01 there. And on Twitter, Instacart. I just said Instacart. Dang, Instagram, wrong Insta. Facebook and YouTube at Robin Roller, just as it sounds, ROBANDROLLER. Let us know how we're doing on the comment sections there. Tweet at us wherever. Any suggestions for questions or future paint schemes, let us know. And finally, things are looking up, but let's continue to wear a mask, do our best to, as individuals, to do our part to slow the pandemic and get this thing over with. So wear your mask, do your social distancing practices when you can.
Please do, because let me tell you something. We're closing in. You said March 14th, March 13th. That's a year We're approaching a year to the D-Day that happened last year when Rudy Gobert tested positive and the whole world shut down, man.
Yeah, that was a long day. That was a long next day. Let's not go back there. I don't want to go back to that. We're doing
Nobody
a great
does.
job.
So that's why you should wear your mask.
Why you should wear your mask. So with that, for Rob Peeters, I'm Josh Roller, and this was the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. Have a great week, everybody.